Yo, what's going on, everybody? I'm Marcus, the Debt Free Dad. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to the channel. I'm appreciative of the over 17,000 subscribers we got on the channel. Shout out to you all for making all of this happen and for allowing me to take a little bit of your time with this content. In today's video, we're going to talk about the super mayor. And the super mayor, and I kind of thought about this. I was like, what are the top 5 charges just based on information that we have that Tiffany Henyard would likely be indicted with? And so I pulled up that list, but more importantly, we're going to break down how we analyze the charges, and we're going to look at specific facts, a couple of news articles for the charges that I think are the most important. So if you tuned in, if you think you're going to get some value, you stay tuned and get some value. Make sure you share, like, comment, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. Now, I always have to throw out the disclaimer: I'm a licensed attorney, but I'm not your attorney. So in short, hey, this isn't legal or financial advice. This is just me giving my opinion and takes on topics, infotainment purposes. If you're looking for a professional, always seek one in your local area. Now, before we get to the Tiffany Henyard story and we go through these charges, hey, I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all too. I actually put information on a PowerPoint slide. Like, yeah, I want to make sure I can get this information to y'all in a way that's palatable. So I actually put it on a PowerPoint slide. So, hey, don't ever say that DFD didn't take his time to try to put this thing together. But we're going to dive into that. But before we do, I'm looking real quick. Before we do, I always got a video because, what I found, I would want to talk about a topic, then I start talking about it right away. Then more people come and I miss it. So I always like to start out with a little buffer story. Now, fellas, this is going to be a real quick video. We want to talk about, get some reaction before we dive in to the meat and potatoes. But fellas, this video is a cautionary tale of if you're a grown ass man, you should probably try to make better decisions and preferably think with the right head. I don't know if I don't know if y'all ever heard that phrase before, but before we get into here, we're gonna watch this video. It's wild. This short video involves a shootout, somebody being set on fire, and I don't like the victim blame, but a small percentage of what happened I'm gonna put on the victim. So let's go ahead and watch this clip so we can get the reaction. I can react to this before we dive into the Tiffany Henyard stuff. Y'all let me know if y'all heard about this in the comments. Let's get it.
To a gruesome scene in Overbrook where a man was set on fire. Neighbors also heard gunshots. Tonight, 2 people are in custody. Our Steve Keeley has the details from his police sources.
A couple pops. Then after that, followed up by screaming.
Neighbors heard gunfire, then screamed for help from the first floor apartment in this newer building here on Lansdowne Avenue this morning. Then seconds later, saw a man run out and into the street on fire. Was he on fire?
We seen him on the corner on fire. His shirt was on fire.
And as the man ran out on fire into the street screaming, here on Lansdowne Avenue at 10:30 this morning, stopped and got out to help. What were they doing to save his life?
They jumped out of the car and poured water on him.
And what was he doing, screaming?
Yeah, somebody help me, somebody help me.
Philadelphia police sources tell me the 40-year-old man set on fire was in bed with an 18-year-old woman when the woman's mother and her boyfriend came home to the apartment. And the 38-year-old man fired shots at the other man. Then the 35-year-old mother of the 18-year-old poured some flammable liquid on him and set him on fire, sources say.
Hey, this is a travesty. This is terrible that happened, but bro, you 40 years old and you went to go with an 18-year-old at her place. Now, let's just be real, okay? At 40 years old, hey, 18 is legal. We get it. There's no R. Kelly stuff going on. But it's kind of weird, okay? It's kind of weird, but more importantly is, where else would you think as a 40-year-old man, where else would you think an 18-year-old would live with? Probably her parents, right? Like, I don't know. At some point, like, hey, let's just finish watching the video. But this is absolutely I'm looking at the comments here. Shout out to you all, but let's finish this video. But hold on, I'm gonna rewind it just a little bit because it's only a minute long. But I want everybody who tunes in to get the facts because it's equal fault to go around, but the victim in this case deserves some of the fault. How much? I guess we could argue a debate over that, but this is absolutely ridiculous. Who wears a shirt in bed?
Yeah, somebody help me. Somebody help me.
Philadelphia police sources tell me the 40-year-old man set on fire was in bed with an 18-year-old woman when the woman's mother and her boyfriend came home to the apartment. And the 38-year-old man fired shots at the other man. Then the 35-year-old mother of the 18-year-old poured some flammable liquid on him and set him on fire, sources say. He then ran outside on fire. Both the police and fire departments responded here to those calling 911, rushing the man with burns to Jefferson Hospital in critical condition. So tonight, both that boyfriend and his girlfriend, the girl's mother, are in custody here at police headquarters, awaiting some serious felony charges. And sources say police are recommending that the district attorney charge them both with attempted murder, aggravated assault, and a slew of weapons charges. And Sheba, Jason, as stunning and shocking as that incident is already what we know, the neighbors that we met in that building tell us it was just the latest incident and nothing but trouble coming from that woman's first.
Yo, that story, that story was absolutely batshit crazy, bro. At 40, come on, bro. Like, I don't know if y'all watched a couple of lives ago, but my son is 17 in college, and literally the first thing I said was, "Hey, if you meet a young lady, don't go to her place off the break. Go somewhere where you can control the environment because it's crazy out here. It's some Lil Wayne, Kendrick Lamar, Mona Lisa stuff going on where people are trying to jack you and set you up. So this is just general advice that I'm giving to a 17-year-old. At 40, where else would you think an 18-year-old would be residing with her parents? And I'm gonna be honest, like, hey, let's just keep it a buck. DFD, your boy got a daughter. If I would like to think that I'm just be honest, okay? The fire stuff is a little bit wild, but let's look at that same fact pattern. If you were a dad and you came home and you seen a grown face ass guy, you seen a grown face ass guy in there with your daughter, the very first thing you probably would think is like, oh man, somebody broke in and assaulted her. Even though you don't know based on history, but that could be a logical jump. I think this is absolutely crazy. It's hilarious that the neighbors was like, yo, there's always some shit going on in this apartment. But I guess the big takeaway for this one is, come on, bro. 40 years old, 18, at the parents' house, like, you got to be smart at this. At some point in time, you probably shouldn't make these type of bad decisions. Let me look at some of these comments real quick. Shout out to the first comment of the day to my guy Paul. Hope the indictments come out soon. Not until November, man. I agree. They have suffered enough. Who wears a shirt in bed? Like, I don't know. I thought that story was crazy. And I was like, yo, shout out to Timothy. That's a good quote. Love lust is a burning thing and it makes a fiery ring. Hey, that's a good quote, man. Like, that's crazy. Sir, where is your home? In the United States of America. Sounds legit. I think that was a crazy ass story. Indicative of how old did she present? Met her in the bar, choices all around. Like, whatever. However old she presented, she was 18. Like for me, I think that's kind of it's not illegal, but it's just kind of strange as a 40-year-old guy. I think that's a little bit strange. You know what I mean? But like, regardless of how legal the overall conduct was, bro, you contributed to that. Like, if I had to apportion fault here, I'm gonna say like 30 or 40% of this might have been the victim's fault. Like, come on now. That's just that. I think that's just not putting yourself in a position to actually exactly going to a parent's house at 38 is a little weird choice. I agree. I agree 100%. What's going on? I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you tuning in. We about to grown face ass guy. Yeah, if you come in to see some grown face ass guy who look like me, I'm in my 40s. I got a 40-year-old face. Like, nah, like if I were on a jury, if I was on a jury and somebody was like, and the guy was on the stand was like, I came in the house, I saw him with my daughter. I thought she was being assaulted because he a grown ass face guy. And I just shot him. I had my gun on me. I thought I was protecting her. I'm gonna be like, that could be reasonable. But yeah, exactly. That's one thing you don't want to do. Your house is for only one person to get cheeks in, and that's you. I agree. Yeah, Rico 2024-25. That's funny. We're gonna talk about that. It's not illegal, but I like to know where the 40-year-old live. I'm assuming that like if you're a 40-year-old man making that decision, I don't know. You either like got a wife and kid at home, or an alternative, you just don't got like no money for a hotel. I just think that's a bad decision. It's all good. It's all good, Justin. You ain't missing that. We about to dive into this Henyard stuff. As a 43-year-old male, I won't date a woman under 30. It's too big of a disparity for me. Plus, girls younger than that are still too immature. I agree with that in general. I'm the same thing. See, we the same age. So I agree completely. I remember I had a partner who was dating a younger girl in her 20s, and I like made a joke. And like even the joke reference went over her head. So I think that's a piss poor decision. The moral of the story is, fellas, like some stuff just comes off as goofy, even though it's legal. But at least get your own place. That was a shit show, and 40% of that was the victim's fault. I hope he has a full recovery. The woman and boyfriend definitely need to be in jail. That is attempted murder. But damn, bro, we got to make better choices. All right. I know, man. I know, man. Right in that same age category. Now, let's dive into the meat and potatoes. We're going to get on this Tiffany Henyard thing. I want to go ahead and how can I do this? What's the best way to do it? Okay, I got it. And I will tell y'all, I've been in this game for 14 years doing this law thing, criminal defense, prosecution, investigations. And one of these offenses I actually never heard of. I was like, what the hell is this? Let me go ahead and look at that. See? Your boy actually made slides, right? Your boy actually made some slides. This one I all new over here from the Pocket Watcher. Oh, shout out. I appreciate you joining. I appreciate everybody who tuned in from my guy JT. Definitely appreciative to have you. Now, as we dove into this Tiffany Henyard thing, I thought about a video with like the top 3 or 4 reasons why indictments take so long. And I was like, we kind of know all of that. But I thought, I wonder what is going to be on this indictment, because there is a plethora of charges that could be on this indictment. So I went down a rabbit hole and I looked at politicians who have been indicted over the years just to kind of see what was out there in the ether. I looked at Ray Nagin down in New Orleans. I looked at Kwame Kilpatrick out in Detroit. I looked at the mayor in Baltimore. Was it Kathleen Pugh, I believe, recently? I just looked to see what were people being indicted for, and it was all generally the same thing. So the easiest one to talk about is the absolute first one, which is something that, I'm gonna be honest, I never heard of that shit before. I was like, what the hell is this? I've never heard of it before. Before we dive into this PowerPoints, you're going to see on the PowerPoints, I highlighted certain things, but the one that is the major ones, I actually broke them out. So normally, how could I explain this so everybody can track what's going on? And y'all probably already know this, but normally, actually, you know what? The easiest way to explain it is to pull up a statute. Let me pull it up real quick. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this statute real quick. This is probably the easiest way. I don't want that one. I just need. Give me 1 second. I had to think of the best way. So 18 USC 1364. I I had it written down right in front of me like a numbskull. All right. Let me go ahead and pull this up so we can see this real quick. Let's see. Share screen. All right. Let's see. I don't want that one. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to make sure I got the right thing up here. Let's just go ahead and go to what I got on. Shit, I created it. So let's go ahead and pull this up. All right, this very first charge right here, honest services fraud. And I saw that and I was like, what the fuck is honest services fraud? Like, yeah, I've been in this game for a minute and I was like, honest services fraud? What the hell is this? And it hit me when I was doing some research and I looked at former Mayor Ray Nagin down in New Orleans, honest services fraud. So we got some highlights here and I kind of highlighted it because I'm going to show you shortly how we break these statutes out, because these statutes are just written in a whole bunch of just a bunch of group of things together, a bunch of words and phrases, and some things are and, meaning you need both, some things or, meaning you need either or to satisfy a particular element. Long story short, what happens when an attorney looks at any criminal statute, they're going to look at that statute and then they want to break it out in elements. For example, let's say first degree murder. The statutory elements would be unlawful killing of another with malice or forethought. And so, but it'll be written in a whole convoluted way. So all we'll do is break out, because for every criminal charge, there's a certain amount of elements. For any legal criminal charge or civil charge, each charge has a certain amount of elements. All we do is read the statute and then we break it out. This statute says all of this, but what do I need to prove that a person is guilty of this or that a person is liable of this? So let's pull up the big screen on this so we can see what the hell honest services fraud actually is. And again, I had no clue what the hell it was. But honest services fraud, a scheme to defraud another of the intangible right to honest services through a scheme to violate a fiduciary duty by bribery or kickbacks. Then they got a fiduciary duty as a duty to act only on the behalf of the public, an employer, shareholder, union, politician. So this is a really interesting charge because a person can only be charged with this if they have a fiduciary duty. So me, if I were proclaiming to be the world's greatest investor and I defraud you out of your money, I can be guilty of a lot of things, but I couldn't be guilty of honest services fraud because I'm just proclaiming myself to be the world's greatest investor. I'm actually not a certified person who's certified, licensed to invest in securities and those type of assets. So I can never have a fiduciary obligation where I have to work in your best interest. So this normally applies to professionals. So who can do this? Attorneys, physicians, certified public accountants, politicians. This is where you'll see this particular charge. This is actually an interesting charge because, like I said, I'll be honest, I never heard of honest services fraud a day in my life. I was like, what the fuck is honest services fraud? But this was one of the charges that the former New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin was in fact charged with. Let me go ahead and get through. Hey, I appreciate y'all shouting out the everything and trying to get these likes up. I myself think that I'm done waiting on the feds. Illinois should have gotten on Henyard first, but Delgado Law Firm has put has a lot of pull with the Attorney General, therefore the governor. Yeah, it does appear to be a little bit of a good old boy network. Delgado represents Tiffany, but build the village of Dalton. Does this apply to not giving businesses licenses without being a kickback? Tiff has done a whole lot of that. You know what, Paul? Hey, Paul, you might be co-counsel for tonight. Paul, you might be co-counsel for tonight because we're gonna actually save that one for last. We're gonna scroll down to one that I think everybody is a little bit aware of, and it's a lot easier. We talked about it on the channel before. Good old-fashioned conspiracy. Good old-fashioned conspiracy. And we talked about this before. The elements are easy, but it is a person who attempts or conspires to commit any offense under this chapter shall be subject to the same penalties as those prescribed for the offense, the commission of which was the object of the attempt or conspiracy. That's a long story short. It's a long, convoluted definition, of conspiracy. The long story short is, in order for there to be a conspiracy, there has to be more than one person. You can't really conspire by yourself unless you got like split personalities. But there has to be uh, multiple persons involved, and we talked about this before. There has to be a substantial act in the furtherance of the crime. What does that mean? The example that I gave before is normally the same as the law school example. If me and two other people sat down in the basement and we just drinking and having a good old time, and we talked about robbing the bank, up until that point, no conspiracy has been made. We can sit down, we can meet about some stuff, we could talk about it, and we could kind of talk through a proposed blueprint of what we would do, but there has to be a substantial act in the furtherance of. So in that same example that we see is one thing for us to sit around talking about what we're going to do and how we would do it. But the minute we go out and get a bunch of Richard Nixon masks and some all black hoodies so that we can effectuate and carry out this actual crime, is at that point when we took that substantial step in the furtherance of that the conspiracy is actually committed. Now, the interesting thing is, and it says it here, I'm going to read this part. I'm not going to pull it up, but it says, any person who attempts or conspires to commit any offense under this chapter shall be subject to the same penalties as those prescribed for the offense. Now, essentially what that means is, hey, if me and you conspire, I go out and buy it, the offense is actually done, they're going to charge me as an accessory during the fact. There's an accessory before the fact, accessory during the fact, and accessory after the fact. And depending on what type of accessory a person is classified in, it determines what their punishment is. An accessory during the fact is always treated the same as the principal. So, think about it. That's common sense. I'm an accessory during the fact. In the bank robbery scenario that we gave, that would be, let's actually flip this into a Henyard scenario. An accessory during the fact. Let's say Tiffany Henyard allegedly wants to start a nonprofit and wants to funnel money from the government, from the state and from the local government to her charity, right? Tiffany Henyard Care Foundation, as an example, hypothetically. She calls up someone else and says, yo, I want to funnel this money, but I need you as the agency head of this particular organization to sign off on this charitable donation that you're going to make to my charity. At that point, the person who signed off is an accessory during the fact because their contributions to the offense are occurring actually at the same time that the offense itself is occurring, or in close proximity to. It could be contemporaneously around the same time. But accessory before the fact, during the fact, you're going to be charged the same. After the fact, you might be charged lighter. Before the fact, after the fact, you could be charged lighter. Somebody embezzled a bunch of money and came to me and said, hey, can you hold this money for me? And I don't ask no questions and I hold it. I'm probably an accessory after fact. I'm probably going to get less time than the person who actually committed the crime. But that's just kind of the general definition of conspiracy and how it's going to play, because we talked about this before. There is no way that this level of misappropriation of funds can be done by just solely one person. I don't give a damn if Thornton, Illinois is a town of only 20,000 people and is only a small rural area. Most government systems and infrastructures have some types of checks and balances in place to where power can't be held unilaterally by one person to have exclusive control over everything. So in order for me as the mayor to misappropriate some funds, to steal something, I have to get a signature from somebody somewhere. Somebody else has to approve or sign off to something. And I think the biggest example we see this in is with the credit cards. Tiffany Henyard is adamant about not having her name on a credit card. She doesn't control money. Other people control those cards. because they're the ones who make the purchases for their particular organization. That's an argument that she's made before the trustees, before the citizens for months now. And it's actually a fair point. It's a good point for her to have, not to have the unilateral control. But in order for her to burn money off those cards, she has to reach out and give some type of influence for someone to actually put that payment through, for someone to sign something, for someone to authorize it in some aspect. So definitely conspiracy charge is going to be on here because there's just too many players involved. We know Keith Freeman, we know Louis Lacey. These are people who have already allegedly have been helping the government, or at least the board of trustees. The interesting thing is going to be on this conspiracy charges, especially as it relates to the township, how many people on the actual board of trustees may get implicated in indictment for conspiracy. That's going to be interesting because from my understanding, it looks like at some point early on, she had damn near everybody on the board of trustees kind of like on her side. And I think that's a really big pivot to make for now people claiming that they're whistleblowers. So it's going to be interesting to see if any trustees get caught up on that. Let's see. The Hen claims, it says the Hen claims said that $4 million grant, and later on Facebook Live that she said that Thornton Township surplus at her campaign picnic yesterday doesn't make sense. I did see that where she said they had like a $4 million surplus in the Thornton Township. I would have to see some numbers of that. I mean, just everything that we've been seeing from the FOIA request to Lori Lightfoot's preliminary investigative report that she did with limited information, it all points to a bag being ran up on the backs of the taxpayers. I have not seen any proof of a grant yet. It's easier said than done. Yeah, I get it. So Tiffany just can't blame Keith Freeman for her malfeasance. She can. Other video would be what would be her top 3 defenses. She can. You can make up any defense you want, but it's just not going to be a viable defense of ignorance, because I've actually did some research and I saw a video of a Thornton Township board meeting in 2021 where Tiffany Henyard was actually asking for an independent audit to come down and take a look at the townships, conduct an internal audit of monies being associated with like the Department of Motor Vehicle and the water company, because there appeared to be some cash payments. So there's no way you can go from in 2001, when you aren't the supervisor, asking for independent financial audits to be made, to now that you are the supervisor, you don't know anything about the process. It just doesn't make, any sense. Why is Lacey hiding the Tahoe at his garage? That would be stupid as hell. Martin, I would say no, she's the mayor. And as always says, she's in power, controls, and run the day-to-day operation. That's correct. And plus, when you're at such a high level in a leadership position, certain acts are going to be imputed on you. Now, you can't know absolutely everything, but certain acts are going to be imputed on you. Plus, she has a substantial amount of experience in local government, so she knows how things go. Just because he got that Durango no more, they just don't want to give it up. It's to blow a blow to their egos. But let's take a pivot, and we're going to look at this second charge. Now we're going to get into some ones that are a little bit more juicy, and the best one we're going to save for last. Let me see. We already know that's going to happen. Let's throw this one out as a consolation. I think this one is easy. I'm going to just pull it up real briefly. I don't even know if this is going to apply, okay? But normally, if you're this is going to be interesting to see how good of a schemer, a fraudster, a thief, allegedly Tiffany Henyard and her co-conspirators are. Because typically with any good fraud scheme, there's always a tax evasion charge. Well, why would there be a tax evasion charge? Because you have an influx of cash coming in. When you have this influx of cash coming in, especially if you're putting it in your personal bank accounts, you're going to have to account for that money. So to account for that money, people tend to fudge sources of incomes. They tend to fudge how much money they're businesses, their outside businesses, or their charitable organization may have paid them directly. Sometimes they'll fudge and make up fake deductions in order to kind of reduce their tax liability. So normally, when you see white collar fraud, you also see a tax evasion charge, because that's that part of trying to make it seem as everything is legitimized and everything is okay. Typically, if you don't see a tax evasion charge, that means that they were just a rookie and they weren't doing their due diligence at all. A lot of companies and individuals that fraudulently receive monies will face charges for federal tax evasion as a result of their unlawful use of illegally obtained funds. Claiming deductions for expenses paid with illegal funds can lead to federal tax evasion charges. Under 20, blah, 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 the statute of federal tax evasion carries a fine of up to $100,000 for individuals or $500,000 for corporations, and up to 5 years in federal imprisonment. So essentially, tax evasion is a charge that white collar criminals get from trying to defend and legitimize their ill-gotten gains. I need to make this money look legitimate. My bank account too big. I make $200,000 a year, but the shit I got in here is indicative of somebody who made $700,000 a year. How can I fudge these numbers? What can I move around to make things look legit? So most times, if you're trying to be savvy and use your head, you'll see white collar crimes, and then you'll see a tax evasion charge. With no tax evasion charge, you just probably throwing the damn money in your bank recklessly. Yeah. She claimed both sides, not involved in the day-to-day, and also doing all the day-to-day oversight. And that's a fair point. You can't have two sides of the coin. Two township trustees were named in an indictment in May. They decided to do the right thing. The last trustee, loyal to her, has been acting very confused recently. Yep. So, yep, being named in the indictment, they're going to be. I'll be honest. I wouldn't be shocked if every trustee wouldn't. If every trustee on that board would probably be named as some type of co-conspirator. Supreme Court overturned the former Mayor Snyder's bribery conviction. Could that ruling impact future Chicago corruption case? You will have to send me the link, because it depends on why they overturned it. Normally, what you would do is, if I'm Tiffany Henyard's lawyer, it depends on why they overturned it. But normally, this is what lawyers do in short. I'm representing Tiffany Henyard, and I got these set of facts here. And I'm like, damn, these facts kind of suck. And I'm going to go and I'm going to do research, and I'm going to look through cases, and I'm going to try to find a case where there were similar facts, there were the same charges, and the person in that case got a favorable outcome that I want my client to get. So that's kind of how it goes. So the defense attorney, depending on what the issue was in that Supreme Court case, and I don't really know what it is, you would have to send me the link and I would have to read it. But depending on what the issue is in that Supreme Court case, one, the facts have to be the same. If the facts are different, you can't use that case as an analogy. But the defense attorney is going to try to find cases that are similar facts with the same charges of his client, where the person in those cases got a favorable outcome. The prosecution is going to try to find cases where there's similar facts, the same charges, and the person got an outcome that was favorable for the state. The person got their ass handed to them. That's kind of how it goes with the case. And they'll say that, well, Your Honor, the precedent that was set by this court in this particular situation. But it definitely would depend on what was their logic, what was the rationale for the Supreme Court's holding. Was it a technicality? If it was a technicality that's not present in Tiffany's fact, that case isn't going to help her at all. But if it was a technicality that got that guy off, the Supreme Court ruled in his favor, and that same type of technicality is present in this case, then her defense will use that case to try to say, hey, this case is analogous to this. It's the same facts, same technicality. Y'all have to follow the precedent that was set by the Supreme Court and rule in favor of my client. But that's generally how it goes. He's still driving the Durango and won't give it back. That's the worst thing you could do. When the jig is up, give back the assets and just keep the stuff that nobody can see. Yeah. That's kind of how it goes. Let's see. That's how they got. That's how Kwame Kilpatrick got hit. He damn near had $1 million in a separate account. Somebody should check Tiffany's bank account. I remember when Kwame Kilpatrick got out too. He was staying in like a mansion, and a reporter asked him like, "How can you afford this place?" And he was like, his answer was either it was something weird too. I can't remember what it is, but it wasn't an answer that you would give as somebody who had the means to actually get that place. Carlisle and Jones were named in a subpoena and changed their votes. Grant Everett is confused and should have been named. Ah, okay. And Carlisle is the one who considered herself a whistleblower. If I was a lawyer, I would not represent Henyard. Would you though? Like you can represent her. I mean, like, would you turn down if she was using the village money to pay, as we suspect? But would you turn down, a retainer of probably $50,000 to stand on morality? I don't know. You can represent somebody and still maintain the level of morality. The check she cashed without the board's permissions and a second signer, that is illegal. And that is true. I did see some of those stories. Let's take a look at the more serious stuff and the things I think that are going to happen. We'll start with wire fraud. Wire fraud is always an easy one. It's one of the fun ones that we see quite often. Y'all sit tight. I got to take a pause for the calls real quick. All right, my bad. My bad. Had to take a pause for the calls. I was like, man, it's getting warm up in this office. But wire fraud is one that federal prosecutors use often. They actually overuse it. They actually overuse it. There's a few reasons for wire fraud. One, prosecutors think is an easy charge, but two, wire and mail fraud have a unique provision that allows you to kind of it allows you to get a little bit more time on the statute of limitations. Conspiracy as well. Conspiracy is one of those weird charges where it allows some manipulation with the statute of limitations for other crimes that may have been committed. Wire fraud, any fraudulent activity that involves internet communication or that is conducted in whole or in part over the internet. It can lead to wire fraud charges. Using the internet to execute any scheme or artifice to defraud or obtain money or property by means of false or fraudulent pretenses, representations, or promises carries up to a $500,000 fine and 20 years in prison. There's a lot of time for wire fraud. The long story short of wire fraud, and this is why federal prosecutors actually love wire fraud, is because it's looked at as an easy charge to get, or easy conviction to get. So let's use Henyard examples, okay? Let's say we're going to use one that was brought up earlier, where Tiffany Henyard allegedly strong-armed local businesses like, yo, we won't give you a business to operate in the township or the Dalton village of Dalton or wherever. We won't give you a license to operate unless you pay $3,500 to the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation, right? So let's say those are the facts, right? And at some point, there were communications between Tiffany Henyard and, let's say, Keith Freeman, like, hey, did you hear back from the guys who want to get their trucking company started? Are they depositing the money or not? That very brief, short, limited conversation could potentially meet the threshold to satisfy for wire fraud because it's telecommunications. If it was sent via email, via text, if it's a fraudulent activity that occurred, yeah, the fraud was strong arming the business to donate to your charity and pretty much hijacking them for their license. Like, yo, you're not gonna get this. We're gonna get in the racketeering game, and we aren't gonna give you what you need to operate your business. So you can't make any money unless you give money to us. Using the internet to execute any scheme or to defraud. Internet, telephone, text messages, anything that digital medium is going to qualify, and that 20-year statute of limitations, I mean, that 20-year sentence is a big deal. And the other thing too is it's every communication that was transmitted. So if we're having a text conversation back and forth, and I send you 10 text communications on February 29th related to this fraudulent scheme we got going on. Then that's 10 separate charges. That's how that's charged. It's not looked at as this is one communication. Each communication instance, if 1 minute you emailed me about it, then the next minute we text about it, then the next minute we sent a message on WhatsApp, each of those instances are a different charge of wire fraud. So it allows you to stack things up, and it really forced defendants to look at like, yo, we may have to take a plea here because these wire fraud charges are stacking up, and it's really easy for the federal government to prove because they just have to prove that there was some type of electronic communication related to the fraud. And that communication doesn't even have to specifically speak of the fraud. It could be them speaking in code that gives the appearance they're speaking with regard to a fraudulent transaction as well. So I think that's I know her retainer fee may be connected and fraudulent. I agree. The retainer fee may be fraudulent, but like I told y'all the scenario about attorney ethics before. An attorney not going to ask, where did you get the money to pay me? That's just not in the question. And there have been multiple cases where attorneys established that attorneys aren't required to inquire where a person got their funds from. Somebody could have went out and started an OnlyFans and paid them. But there are actual cases out there and bar association opinions that don't require attorney. Like the scenario I always gave on this channel before. Somebody came in my office with a bag full of money. They got cocaine residue and blood on it. I don't have to look at that and be like, oh, whoa, buddy. I know this is a lot of money and I really want to represent you. And my kids are starving right now, but I can't take this because there's cocaine residue on this money. Nah, no attorney is going to be asked to dive that deep. I mean, let's just think about it. What profession is there where they care about your ability to pay? Like, what is a profession where they like, yo, like, I don't know, your mechanic don't care if it's cocaine money. If you let you need open heart surgery and you show up with money with cocaine residue on it, they're gonna take it and go in there and operate on you. So it's just not a thing that's done just across professions in general, but courts, bar associations, state bar associations, they have pretty strict guidance as to attorneys aren't responsible for inquiring as to the source of funds. Now I know y'all may think that's a kind of shady of us attorneys, but there's very little professions. You go to church and donate money. The church don't even ask where the hell the money come from. So if the church not gonna ask where the money came from, it ain't no way in hell that an attorney will be required to do an inquiry into the legalities of the money. That's just not gonna happen. Yeah. He's still riding around in a Durango. That's funny. Just like credit cards, she may have others doing the communication. She might have yeah. I don't know. It's very hard to dodge wire fraud. It's very hard. I've never in 14 years, I've never seen a white collar case. I don't care if it's a bank CEO or what was that guy? I can't think of his name, but I represented a guy who had a Ponzi scheme and he stole money from retired school teachers. I've never had across my desk, defense, investigation, prosecution, whatever, a white collar case where there were no internet communications. That's just not the age that we live in. If she avoided a wire charge, I'm gonna say she's actually smarter than I thought she was. What about all those credit card charges? Could it also be a penalty for using the credit card or government funds for her slick billboard campaigns? Yeah, because that's a two-part thing. If I were her, I would argue that yes, it is illegal. You can't use government funds for a billboard on yourself. If it's a billboard, I'm assuming that billboard will probably be considered some type of partisan political thing. Vote Tiffany Henyard. I don't know. I just don't go around seeing billboards plastered around of mayors. It's not an uncommon thing. It's an uncommon thing. So yes, that would be considered illegal activity. Question: did you hear about Tiffany closing the Thornton bank account Friday night before she was handing those boxes of food? It's confirmed. The pro bono lawyer was stating that. That's wild. If she was closing out, I haven't heard that. If that's send me the link to that if you got it on official debt-free dad at gmail.com, or you can hit me up on IG, same handle. I would like to take a look at that. PT and Barnum, the voters. I agree. Giving out food, and that's it's a page out of a. If y'all want to watch an actual good blueprint of what's going on with Tiffany Henyard, and go on Netflix. I don't like to give out free promo, but there's a beautiful documentary. There's actually 2 beautiful documentaries on Netflix that apply. I love these type of things. One is called How to Be a Mob Boss, and it's like 5 episodes, maybe 30 minutes each episode. And they talk about these different mob bosses, and it's a blueprint of the steps that a person has to take in order to become a big time mob boss. How do you grow from being nothing to a mob boss? And the second one is how to become a dictator. And they look at dictators throughout histories, Joseph Stalin, Idi Amin, and they look at some of the tactics that these dictators do as far as starting political fights, as far as finding a certain population to blame things on. And it's funny. It's funny because you would think those have no interplay with what's going on, but those 2 documentaries actually provide a lot of insight and politics in the year 2024. It's actually a good documentary. Yeah. What about computer and internet fraud? It just depends, because if you're using a computer to commit fraud, the fraud is going to be the wire fraud. That's essentially the wire fraud is essentially what you would consider to be computer or internet fraud. Any fraud that's involving internet communications. Now, when it relates to, and that even includes the funds, like, so it doesn't actually have to be communications via text or email. It could be the transfer of illegal funds from account A to account B. That can suffice as well when you have all your mail fraud, wire fraud, bank fraud. That transition of money from account A to account B could suffice. So, and we would see that a lot of times. I've actually had cases where the federal bank with federal funds are distributed is a bank in New York. There's a couple of them, but one of them is in New York. And if a person commits fraud in, let's say a person commits fraud in North Carolina and the federal government transfers those funds from New York to North Carolina, once those funds are transferred, fraudulent activity that involves internet communication or that is conducted in whole or in part over the internet, then you actually got a wire fraud charge. So that's kind of how those things play out. Now let's get to the good ones, okay? And this is the 2 that I think are the most important. Let me see. These are the 2 that are most important. One we'll save for last because she's going to do it, but this is the one that I think we got to go into a deep dive on right here. All right, this is the biggest one. The good old RICO, racketeering, influence, and corrupt organization. Okay, because I mean, I think everybody in the chat would agree that this is conduct that required the involvement of multiple persons. I think everybody would agree that if we just assumed who we could potentially identify as co-conspirators, yeah, they would meet the classification of an organization. But I want y'all to see what I did here versus these other statutes. You see how these other statutes, I just wrote them out as is. This RICO statute was long as hell. And because this RICO statute was long as hell, this is how they teach you in law school to break the statute out. I broke it out into the elements so we can see exactly what we need in order to satisfy this In order to find somebody guilty of a RICO charge, this is how it is. So it wasn't written like this. It was written kind of like this, all jumbled up, but it was so much stuff that I had to pull it out. Now, I do got to look up one thing. So give me 1 second. I'm going to leave that on the screen just in case y'all want to read it. And I got to pull up one more screen because I got to get the definition and I highlight it of racketeering activity. Definitions. Racketeering activity. That definition long as fuck, and I'm not reading all that. Pardon my language, but we gonna get into it. All right. So racketeering is one of the ones that's juicy. Everybody like it. You want to beat the RICO, real estate RICO. You hear all these RICO, Young Thug, YSL RICO, which they probably beat that case because the prosecution is wild. But in order for a RICO charge to stick, is any person who received income directly or indirectly from a pattern of racketeering activity or through the collections of an unlawful debt. So you need element one. Any person has to be a person. A person is an individual, or it could be an entity. Is defined as a person legally. LLC is defined as a person in the eyes of the law. It has to be a person. They have to have received income directly or indirectly. Now, 3 and 4, I thought about writing it a little bit different, but I was like, I'm going to keep it simple. Now, 3 and 4 is interesting because you don't need both. You need either or. So you need from a pattern of racketeering activity or through the collection of an unlawful debt. So the question is, well, what the hell is racketeering activity? I'm not even going to pull it up because the definitions are so wild. But all right, listen to this. Definition of racketeering activity. It's the whole page. It's so long as shit. Racketeering activity is defined by 18 U.S.C. 1961, which provides all the definitions for everything in this RICO statute. Racketeering activity means A, any act or threat involving murder, kidnapping, gambling, arson, robbery, bribery, extortion, dealing in obscene manner, or dealing in a controlled substance or listed chemical, which is chargeable under state law, blah, blah, blah. Any act which is indictable under the following provisions is a whole gang of shit. I'm not even going to dive into all that. Racketeering activity, any act or threat involving murder, kidnapping, gambling, arson, robbery, bribery, or extortion. Remember, bribery or extortion are the two we're going to focus on. Extortion. What the hell is extorting? Hey, you going to do this for me, and if not, I won't do this. That's essentially what extortion is. So now let's go back to this racketeering statute. So you need racketeering activity or an unlawful debt. An unlawful debt is just saying, yo, I'm not going to give you this license unless you pay the debt that you owe me. You're like, wait, I don't owe you nothing. Yeah, it's an unlawful debt. So essentially, you need either or racketeering activity or unlawful debt. The person has participated to use or invest directly or indirectly any part of such income in an enterprise which is engaged in activities that affect interstate commerce. So I should have highlighted that in red because now the other definition we need a definition for interstate commerce. And I just want to pull it up. There's interstate commerce, intrastate commerce, two different things. And then I'm going to pull up an example because I think this is a really easy one to prove. Interstate commerce refers to commercial transactions or traffic that crosses state boundaries or involve more than one state. All right. So now we got the definition of what a RICO is and some of the definitions contained inside the statute. Any person who received income directly or indirectly from a pattern of racketeering activity, that means bribery, extortion, or through the collection of an unlawful debt. The person has participated to use or invest directly or indirectly any part of the income that they received in an enterprise or business which is engaged in activities that affect interstate commerce, that's across state lines. And that's very liberal. Interstate commerce is very liberal. Courts have found if I have a t-shirt business and I post it at the bottom, and I posted at the bottom of this YouTube video, here's the link to my merch. Courts have found that even though I operate out of wherever, Maryland, Virginia, wherever the hell I'm at, because it's online access, my business engages in interstate commerce because people from outside of my state can buy goods and services. And so interstate commerce is easy to prove. Most businesses have an impact with interstate commerce across state lines. Gas company. Well, what does a gas station have? Well, people get fuel and they travel. Automobiles affect interstate commerce. Planes affect interstate commerce. Food, yeah, food is transported from one state to another. It affects interstate commerce. If there's a web service, interstate commerce, state lines are being crossed to make transactions all the time. So now we're going to pull up a case where this is actually applicable to the super mayor. Let's go ahead and pull this up now that we know what the RICO is. And I got the comments over there. We're gonna jump into them, but I want to get to this while it's still fresh on your boy brain. And shout out, I can't remember who it was in the chat, the person who brought this up. Y'all can see what DFD like to look at. Shoes all on the screen. Yeezys on sale by the Adidas store, but I couldn't find my size. All right. It says Illinois mayor is now accused of shutting down. Illinois mayor is accused of shutting down local businesses, refusing to donate to her campaign, and blasting Rihanna's "Bitch Better Have My Money" at a board meeting. The first female mayor of a tiny Illinois village is now accused of shutting down businesses that refuse to donate to her campaign, just weeks after being slammed using city money to fund her glamorous looks. Thornton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, 40, is accused of using her official position within the town to retaliate against those who do not comply with her wishes, the New York Post revealed. Residents claims she adopts a persona of don't freeze on me. All right, let's see. It says residents claim she adopts a persona of movie gangster Nino Brown. She looked like a fool in that outfit. People look at politics like a joke, blah, blah, blah. Bitch better have my money. Is one part where the actual individual involved. Okay, here you go, right here. Here's the meat and potatoes. Now, remember what we defined RICO, racketeering, all of that shit. One resident, Lawrence Gardner, claimed that Henyard forced the closure of his trucking business after he refused to renew a $3,500 contribution to her political fund. Any person, Tiffany Henyard is a person, received income directly or indirectly. Let's see. I made the payment, he said. Then every year she started coming and required the same thing, and we had a problem about that. He made the payment. So element one is met. Tiffany Henyard, a terrible person, but she qualifies as a person. Element number two, received income directly or indirectly. This gentleman, Mr. Gardner, said, I made the payment, but she kept wanting the payment every year, and he had a problem with that. So she received income directly from a pattern of racketeering activity. Remember, racketeering activity involved bribery and extortion. This would qualify as extortion. If you don't do what the hell I say, you won't be able to operate your business. It's the same as me going in to a mom and pop shop and tearing up the damn place and saying, you need money from protection because these guys is crazy out here. So element one, person, met. Element two, received income directly or indirectly. It was directly, met. Element three, from a pattern of racketeering activity. Was met. Let's see. Element four, the person, Tiffany Henyard, had participated to use or invest directly or indirectly any part of such income. This gentleman said he gave $3,500. She participated to use it for what? What did she want to use it for? For her political campaign. That was the contribution. So element five, met. Last, in an enterprise which is engaged in activities that affect interstate commerce. The question is, the enterprise, what was the enterprise he gave the money for? Her political campaign. Do we think political campaigns of a mayor will impact interstate commerce across state lines? I think the answer to that is absolutely yes. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I think that's the clearest and the most obvious indication for RICO, and I think that's one is easy. It says, I made the payment. I'm gonna finish reading this. I made the payment, he said. Then every year she started coming and requiring the same thing, and then we had a problem. Nino Brown, anything she wants done. Okay. What is she? Nino Brown? He said anything she wants done, she gets them to harass you. She likes nobody. If you're not doing what she says, if you are not doing how she's saying to do it, you're a problem and she don't like them. Residents and former officials accused Henyard and Police Chief Louis Lacey of obstructing local businesses that failed to make the required payments. Trustee Kiana Belcher agrees that former Police Chief Robert Collins admitted to being directed, by the mayor to target individuals. And then it talks about some of the other investigations that she is under. But I think that is the most obvious of all of these that jumped out. This one is probably the most serious. Well, wire fraud is serious too, but those two are definitely the more serious ones. And as soon as I read this, the first scenario that popped into my mind was her strong arming businesses to donate to her campaign or to donate to her charity. And that puts her right into this. Let me see. I want to make sure we got it up. That puts her right into this RICO statute. Every element is met. Let's just go through this one more time. Element 1, Tiffany Henyard meets the legal definition of a person, although a terrible person. Prong number 2, the gentleman said he actually paid her, so she received direct income. That's met. Prong number 3 or 4. You don't need 3 and 4. You need 3 or 4. Prong number 3, it was from a pattern of racketeering activity, which, hey, she's strong arming these guys, is racketeering activity. Or 4 could be applied too. It's an unlawful debt. The guy says she circled back. She spun the block every year. Like, yo, you need to pay that debt. And the dude's like, I don't even owe you nothing. So 3 or 4 could be met. I think both of them are actually met in this situation. Person, receive income directly, racketeering activity, which is extortion. We read the definition. Or through the collection of an unlawful debt. The guy really had no debt obligation to keep his business running. Tiffany Henyard has participated to use or invest directly or indirectly any part of such income. If it goes to her campaign, it's an direct benefit. Actually, I would argue is a direct benefit to her. And the last one is in an enterprise which is engaged in activities that affect interstate commerce. Running for mayor, politics is going to affect interstate commerce. There's no way about it. There's no way around it. It's just something that happens. I don't think anyone would argue that me being the mayor of, let's say I'm the mayor of DC, hey, my job doesn't affect interstate commerce. Everything that you do affect interstate commerce. You know why? Because you control the tolls, the roads that connect the district to Virginia, that connect the district to Maryland. So I think she's a done deal on that one. The last one we're going to talk about, and I only did this one last because it's easy, but we're going to do this one last just because in the order that it happens, this is always the last one to happen. Damn, did I pass it? Oh, there you go. I'm tripping. Making false statements to federal agents. Okay. Now, this is going to be interesting. Okay. Normally what happens is all of the crimes are committed. Every other crime we went through, honest services fraud, the RICO, conspiracy, everything else is done. But Tiffany Henyard has yet to speak with law enforcement. She hasn't spoken to law enforcement yet. At some point in time, she will speak to law enforcement. Now, it depends. There are 2 types of people, okay? 2 types of people, 2 types of defendants or accused, I would say, that you're going to deal with. Accused number one is the person who, when they understand the shitload of evidence against them, they just go in and be like, yo, I want to just cut a deal and work something out. Person number two is the type who they're going to try to give you their variation of the facts, and they're going to try to sell you on the bullshit that you've been saying, that they've been saying for years. She strikes me as person number two. She just seems disingenuous. I don't think she's going to break down at the table talking to the feds and be like, you got me. Okay, I capitulate. Let's work out a deal. Nah, at some point, I feel like she's going to have to talk to the feds. At some point, she's going to go in and talk to the feds. I would never go in and talk to the feds, but I would never go in and talk to the feds because I don't really care what the feds have to say. I just want to get the discovery. They're required to give me the discovery so I know all the evidence that they have against my client. I just want the discovery. I really don't want you going in there saying anything because Tiffany Henyard has a personality where she think, and I had clients like this, man, just put me on the stand and let me say what I need to say and I'll convince them. And I'm like, no, you're not going to convince them. You're actually going to say something to make shit worse. But she strikes me as one of those people who thinks that she could potentially be in front of law enforcement and show them how her version of the facts are the truth, not what they've seen and read and found out with their own ears and eyes. And when facing an audit or a federal investigation targeting any type of fraud, to include PPP fraud, individuals must be careful not to make false statements while also being cautious not to unnecessarily share information that could lead to federal prosecution. That's why generally I don't want my people talking to anybody if I'm a defense attorney. Under 18 USC 1001, making false statements to federal agents carries a fine of up to $250,000 for individuals, $500,000 for corporations, and 5 years of federal imprisonment. So let's go ahead and jump through these comments. Man, y'all been commenting me up. Let me see. I'm gonna have to skip through there. How many times do you see people steal millions and get 5 years? Let's say Henyard gets 6 years in jail, but got 2.5 million here. Would you go to jail for 5 years to have enough money to never work again? I wouldn't go to jail for 2.5 million, but that's just me. Because she's going to prison. And they aren't going to send her to the cushy prison that's in Colorado where they got a prison in Colorado. It's club fed where they had a tennis court and they had to get rid of the tennis court because they said the optics would look bad. They don't even have walls. It's like a painted line. Like, she's not going to that prison. So, I mean, I don't know. She's not going to that prison. That's just, I don't know. Like when Kwame Kilpatrick was convicted, they didn't send him to some cushy ass prison. He was in prison, like real prison. So, but the other thing too is I just don't think that, like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Tiffany, I don't know Tiffany Henyard's financial situation, but I saw a video where she was like a slumlord on the property that she owned. And everything that I've seen about her through open source just didn't give me vibes of a person who launders or steals money or does something illegal to get money. And after their time is over, they actually still have money. Those people are few and far between. That doesn't happen that often. Most people who steal a bunch of money and they go to prison and they get out and don't have shit and they have to try to commit another scheme to get money up. Yeah. Pastors don't turn down anything. Honestly, pastors probably funnel the most money. Yeah. Drug dealers do it all the time. I agree. She closed the township bank account. I never seen that. I gotta look. From what I understand, it's illegal to use taxpayers' funds. Yeah, it is. That is illegal. That's an illegal campaign contribution. That would be an illegal campaign, and that's a campaign finance violation. I'm not sure what that is, and that'll probably be in there too. I thought these was the 5 most general ones we could look at, but using unauthorized funds to go to your campaign, yeah, campaign finance violation. Now I don't know how many accounts yet. I'm just trying to get through these comments. Mm. Well, the 440,000 folks, and that's something that will happen. I hope her name isn't on top, but that's something that will happen. At some point, they are going to freeze bank accounts and seize assets. The interesting going, and this is when we're going to find out how smart of an alleged criminal Tiffany Henyard and her co-conspirators are. Because when you're doing something wrong, you want everything in your somebody else's name, preferably probably not your mother, but you generally want other stuff in other people's name. Sorry, I know y'all like, man, this dude always drinking Gatorade. But we gonna see what she did at the food giveaway was philanthropic, though Keith Price, because the board wouldn't approve the funds. So she to throw. Yeah, I saw some dude on a golf cart talking about that it wasn't the village funds, it was her funds. They had some luxury Tahoes. They're not that great. Tiffany obsessing to have her name on everything. I agree. Let's see. The food comes from the states and federal funding at Tiffany, and she can't pay for the workers' wages that was passing out the food and running the kids stuff. I agree, and that's going to be other. That's going to be another good question. How many, if there were any programs that were defrauded or funds were misappropriated, where those funds included money that were received from the federal government, because that's going to open up a whole nother, even worse can of worms. Yeah. This is where the problem is. Rico, the Delgado law firm, represented Tiffany, but billed the village. That would be crazy. I don't know if they might have gotten the money from the village. That would be crazy for them to actually build the village. That, because I know there was some distinction between, hey, they're representing Tiffany and they may be representing the township or the village in a specific matter, but that would be very ridiculous. That would be crazy. You would think that they would structure their billing in a way to be able to make it look more legitimate. That would be crazy to be like, hey, we're going to represent you, but let's bill all of this. No, that can't be the case, because the billing, the whole part is you got to make the books look cooked. That would be absolutely wild and would make no sense. But who paid for the golf cart that Keith was driving? And I saw so many videos. They was just going in on that dude. Within the RICO, could both governments in which those involved be together, or would it have to be separate? You can have a RICO for separate events. So it could be one RICO charge related to the strong arming of. It could be one RICO charge related to the strong arming of businesses, like the analysis we did. But it could be another RICO charge that relates to something more specifically with the government funding. So, yeah, it depends on which way the government wants to go with it. I mean, when it comes to a RICO charge, all you need is really one. So they're probably going to go with. Well, it depends too, because some people like I'm not a fan of overcharging someone to get them to take a plea. If I hit you with an indictment that has 15 wire frauds on it, best believe I could prove each and every fucking one of those wire frauds. If I can't prove it, I'm not going to put it on an indictment. That's the way a good prosecutor is supposed to go. But there are some prosecutors who will just over indict the hell out of somebody to have all of these charges with all of these years. But generally, most prosecutors I interacted with, most prosecutors I interacted with. Nah, I'm gonna be honest. Now that I think about it, most prosecutors I've interacted with when I was a defense attorney, they were pretty good about. They only went with what they could prove. I've had meetings with prosecutors, and they was like, we can't prove these three, so I'm not even going to include those. But that's generally how it goes. I live in the Chicago area. The only news channel covering this is Channel 9 going ham with all them FOIA requests. as a second-year law school student, I wouldn't be surprised. Uh, as a second-year law school student, I wouldn't be surprised if the reason she hasn't been. Ah, a shout out to you, 2L. That cop Lacey and the other guy that got caught for bankruptcy fraud will dump her in a second to save their booty. Of course, of course. They are. I believe one of them is probably already working with the feds. If not, they should. Lacey should be racing them. I don't think Lacey has as much information as the Freeman guy. Though. Like, yeah, I feel like he was really close. Lacey, I feel like he was probably more of a like, you got your deputy, you got your number two, you got your lieutenant, your capo, but you kind of got your enforcer. Your enforcer don't really know what's going on. He just take marching orders, and that's the perception I get with Lacey. Yeah, man, that's gonna be messy, man. If you talk about tying in other, if you're talking about other politicians, she's still throwing parties. The parties is for the old people. It's for the old people who vote. They need to throw their tiebreaker there. I feel confident they will. I just don't see this going unpunished, especially for some black woman in charge. Like, nah, that's not going to happen. Everything in her campaign, her whole campaign is a federal campaign finance violation. In my opinion, I think the judge needs to be possibly added to the RICO because they tried to recall her. But yeah, and I remember that. Hmm, that actually might be good to look at. That actually might be good to look at to see the reason for the recall. Yeah. When she did that, she owed property taxes on the lot she owed in Dalton. I wonder if she even paid them. I saw a video where she was like, she had like tenants, and it was like some slumlord shit, and they was trying to get them. They was trying to get shit fixed, and this was a property that she owned there. But there's been a couple of stories. I agree with that. Everything is in your campaign is all the taxpayer money. Yeah. I'm surprised he got out of keeping the Section 8 money from her molded house and the tenant had to move to a hotel. Yeah, that's the story I'm talking about. She had a house and she was on slumlord status. Like somebody on slumlord, she just doesn't give vibes of someone who's indicative of making good choices with money. And it's very, very few people who commit white collar crimes or any crimes where they have a lot of money actually have money when they get out. That's very few and far between. There's only very few people who one know how to actually launder the money in a way where they can keep it and it looks legitimate, and two actually have the resources to do it. You know how expensive it is to launder money? Like if you had $1 million that you got illegally and you wanted to launder it, you're probably gonna have to spend 30 or 40% of your $1 million to just launder the money to make it look like it was obtained legally. So shit isn't cheap. Hey, that's the game, man. Predict the charges. We're gonna see when they come out what's all on there. Okay, we're gonna see what's all on there. We're gonna see what charges are on there. I feel like out of these, I would have at least 3 of them. I feel like a conspiracy is going to be on there. That's something I found out today. That's probably going to be on there. If she wire fraud is probably going to be on there. Shit, all of them. Maybe not the tax evasion. I don't know. Hey, I appreciate that. Y'all make sure y'all hit the like button on this as well. But yeah, I just wanted to just jump in and just go through that. I really don't know if she'll get hit with the RICO. Time will tell. They love going after it though. It is the biggest thing with the RICO. The biggest thing with the RICO is because RICO, you're looking at an organization, an actual structure, and that would probably be the biggest argument. But I think that's an easy argument. How many people do you need to classify it as an organization would be the question. Yeah. Let's see. Bureau of Prisons. Okay, I was like, but yeah, Bureau of Prisons will be a haul. I believe the reason that she hasn't seen an indictment is because corruption in Illinois goes all the way up to the governor. We have a history of people in publicly elected office. Yeah, But I don't know if a state indictment for state charges, I can see the governor being able to influence that. A governor can't do shit with federal charges though. Like, I don't know. Like, you really would have to have pull. As someone who's been at a state level in these situations, I can expressly tell you the federal government didn't give two fucks about what was going on at the state level. They was like, oh, we charging them with this. They was like, we don't give a fuck. Like they literally had no clue. And vice versa. At the federal level, again, that's just what I said. They don't care what the state level has going on. So I can see a situation where there could potentially be some pull there. There could potentially be some pull there to do something with a state indictment. But a federal indictment, I don't know if they had that much pull. Because federal prosecutors aren't. What the fuck can the governor give to federal prosecutors? Yeah, I just can't see that happening. A state indictment, yeah. State charges, yeah. Federal charges, I can't see that happening. They need to radar find out where she buried the money. It's called lying, and she's going to get her lawyers to talk for her because she doesn't answer direct questions. That would be smart. She can't flee the country. It's using Loverboy car wash for paying water bill. That's a crime too. Yeah. Everybody like she got a lot of money. She got a lot of money. I just don't like. Y'all think she's sitting on like, okay, let me know in the comments. Do y'all think Tiffany Henyard is sitting on what, $1 million? $500,000? How much money, if you think Tiffany Henyard has cash, how much money do you think she's actually sitting on? Yeah, they should have already done that based on how that probably looked. Yeah, I would have fled the country by now if I was her. It's funny to watch her deny wrong still. Yeah. No, but it's crazy. I'm trying to get through some of these comments, the longer ones here. Delusions of grandeur. I said they never gonna do an audit. Let's see this account where these checks were written and she refused to write or sign or issues checks. I know Kwame Kilpatrick. I wasn't in Detroit for his scandal, but you can't say that Trump and is a racist because he pardoned Kwame Kilpatrick. Talk about campaigning. Tiffany isn't gonna get that lucky. I agree, and like, no, I don't think. When it comes to pardoning people, pardons I think are for sale. Like, yo, if you got that bread, or you know somebody who's a celebrity who can get some name recognition, like Kim Kardashian was getting people like. I actually realized relatively soon, like, hey, Kim Kardashian is actually kind of bright. But I think generally pardons are for sale for the highest bidder. But yeah, he gave Kwame Kilpatrick a pardon, and Kwame got out and got into a mansion. How hard is it to get credit card statement? The board must be on the account. I could get a copy in 10 minutes from my Visa. It's crazy to me. Yeah, I just don't know how. I don't know how it's set up. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure if I had a card issued by my job, they could get a copy of the statement, but I'm not sure how it's set up. And it looks like it may be an old school way of, because normally I like to think of it as each card goes to an individual as an authorized user. So it's not like if I'm in charge of agency A and this person's in charge of agency B, we both got credit cards. I got a credit card with my name. Them as an agency head, they got a credit card as their name. Those funds still come out of the overall funds in some form of fashion is allocated to the city. But it's not that hard for them to get it. It's just the reason the trustees probably can't get it is one, the way they have it set up, they probably don't have the accounts are under the names of the individuals and not the trustee. If the accounts fell under one account, then the card that another person had was just kind of an authorized user card, of course they can pull up that account because that's just an authorized user to that card, but it's not their specific card that's solely for them per se. But the trustees really can't get nothing because they just don't have the ability to, they don't have any subpoena power. If they don't have no subpoena power, what can they get? She admitted that the lawyer was representing her and several others of the township, was footing the bill, and the board was asking if it was a conflict. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that, and we kind of talked about that. And it's really weird with the representation. The bottom line is based on the information we had. It looked like it was a conflict, and we did a video. I did a video. We went through the conflict statutes that the Illinois Bar Association laid out. We can go to Kohl's and get a statement, but not everything I bought. And if Tiff shit the board out from getting the invoices, and it took a while for them to get their power back. I do agree with that. It looked like the board finally grew a pair. That is the case. Delgado said it was skeptical counsel. That's why Oderson firm fired back the trustees because Tiffany didn't pay Oderson when the board approved Oderson payments. And they got a dispute over payment now between all of those firms. I'm trying to get through these bigger comments here. Let's see. Lacey got a legal $200K of overtime. I agree. She had to okay that. She could have gotten a kickback from that too, potentially. I mean, you normally got to get something for something. If I give you overtime, you give me something. Normally it's some quid pro quo. So, I don't know if it was protection, security. I don't remember any politician being corrupt at that carrier. But yeah, fair. Lacey, Tiff, and Keith should not receive their pensions and back pay and pay back the money. Tiff should pay back her fraud. Cancer charity, Cantrell from New Orleans did the same thing and paid it back. Interesting. Yeah, I don't even know. Is her charity still in operation? Because I did have an article up here. I didn't pull it up, but I saw back in February the Illinois AG office ordered the charity run by Thorton Mayor Tiffany Henyard to stop soliciting donations because they weren't filing the required request. So I don't even. You say 500K or less? Less than 20,000. I'm on board with you, man. VMJM. I'm on board with you, man. I just don't think Tiffany sitting on a bag like that. I think a lot of things were spent. I think mostly it was on lifestyle and flossing and living the good life. And I think the fact that she hasn't resigned, that she's still going up to work, that she's still showing up to work is because she needs that money. Because if you were sitting on all that money, why would you literally, if I was her attorney, I would ask her, hey, you should resign. Do you have the means to resign and not do anything? Because think about it. The longer that she's in office, the more evidence, the more exposure, the longer she's sitting in those positions, the more exposure. It's just the longer she's elected as an official, or the supervisor, is better for the federal government. The longer she does it, the better. And I think that's a problem. So if I was actually advising her and you sitting on some money, I would be like, yo, you need to get out. Because if you get out right now and resign, the only information they have on you is what was done before you resign. The longer you stay there, it gives them an opportunity to gather more information, more facts, more information, more facts. The more people can actually turn on you, the more people who know who can actually hurt you. There's literally no reason, if she had as much money as people think she had, that she should still be in this position. So the fact that she's still there, it leads me to believe that she probably got a lot of shit. She probably did a lot of nice trips. She probably got some mean ass lace fronts and all that shit in her house. But I don't think she's sitting on millions of dollars, $500,000. I just don't think so. I think there's a reason she's showing up for work every day, because she has to. I agree. I agree 100%, Justin. I just don't think that nothing about anything that she did has on what I like to call the debt-free dad scamometer, where like a 1 is a shit show of a scam and a 10 is a complex scam, where I would look at it and be like, damn, that would actually take an investigative team time to put together. Her scams are like a 3. maybe a 4 if you being generous. I would actually probably say a 3. So I agree with you 100%. Oh, he filed bankruptcy 7 to 8 times. I live in Florida. The max is 3 times in a lifetime. Nah, that dude filed like 7 or 8 since 1980s. Her and her love. Oh, that was the dude who put hands on that guy. They went to Jamaica. See, that's another reason right there why I don't think she got that much money. Because if I had all that money, I'm not going to fucking Jamaica. If I'm sitting on millions, man, nah, I'm going to Dominica. I'm going anywhere but Jamaica. That's the like Jamaica is where you go where you like, you know what? Hey, I got an extra $1,000. Let's go to Jamaica or the Dominican Republic or somewhere like that. So that's another reason. I feel like, yo, if you had real bread, you would be taking a lot of luxury vacations. You know, you should be at what is that island called? Damn, I can't think of it. The name escapes me now. There's an island in Italy where all the Roman emperors used to go. Damn, I can't think of it. It's terrible because I'm a historian and I can't think of what the fuck the name of it is. One person questioned why is it that a government entity even has a credit card? Do you find that abnormal for a government to have if it's not considered a business? Nah, that's how everybody go. Everybody in government got a credit card. Like that's one of the first things they're like, yo, make sure you get your government credit card. Make sure you get your government credit card. Even even regular line employees have government credit cards. So it's not uncommon. It's common in federal government, it's common in state government. Oh, excuse me. Now I will tell you in state government, restrictions are probably a little bit more uh stringent. I was at a state entity, and at one point, how can I put this? The agency, then each division within the agency had 2 or 3 people with a card. But at one point, when new leadership came, they said, you know what? We don't want to give all of these divisions within this organization a card. We're just going to make them do a procurement request for what they want, and that'll go to the top, and it'll be one person at the top who is responsible for buying all the equipment. But having a credit card for a government entity is not the same thing. Jamaica trip, yeah. That's indicative. That's giving broke vibes. Yeah, I would believe she got kickbacks from those fraudulent overtime payments. Yeah, I'm not gonna give you something for. She doesn't strike me as a person who gives anybody something for nothing. You gotta. Hey, quid pro quo. You gotta give to receive. Attack and if it remain unpaid balance of $4 million is not a full pardon. Yeah, that's fair. Oh yeah, so he okay. Why you don't think it's 500K or less could be considered if she's invested in real estate? I y'all, I don't know. I just think y'all giving her too much credit. In order for her to buy real estate, this is what have to happen. Hey, yeah, yeah, it's weird. Like maybe this is just me, all right? But I feel like y'all, on one instance, everybody like she's dumb, but on the other instance, she's like this money laundering genius. Like, in order for her to buy real estate with illegal funds, she would have to one actually commit a scheme to illegally get the money, right? So she committed a scheme, she illegally got the money. Now the next thing she has to do is actually launder that money. Now, this could be the case. So you thinking she got the money illegally, got the illegal money, and just deposited it directly in her bank account, or she got the illegal money and was like, now I'm gonna take this illegal money and just go ahead and go buy a property and then rent that property out. That would be the easiest fucking thing to trace in the world. Like, in order for her to really do it and be able to buy property that she could potentially keep after the prison sentence and all this is said and done, she'd have to commit a scheme. And once she committed a scheme, she would have to launder the money through something that's legit. Maybe she tried to do that with her charitable organization, but that came out like a shit show. So I just don't think she has the means to even effectively, like, yeah, okay, she might have let's say she got money illegally and she bought some real estate. That could happen. Yes, that could be a possibility. I just don't think that whatever it is she did with the money, I don't think she did it in a way that'll allow her to, one, keep it after the fact. I don't think she laundered it correctly. I don't even think she has the, I mean, maybe she has the connections, but I seriously don't even think she has the connections to actually launder it effectively. Me personally, maybe I'm not giving her maybe I'm not giving her credit though for her overall criminal intuition and criminal know-how. Yeah, I agree. I read that earlier. That's why I think she just doesn't have the means to do it. I don't think she got a daughter legacy to just ice rink that man Evan. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Justice. Justice or just ice. That is hilarious. Oh man. Tiffany is living check to check. That's why she won't go. But she has to pay for her own counsel in Dalton. See, I typically agree with that. I think if she had the means to get out, she would have got out a long time ago. What's going on, Lisa? I think if she had the means to get out, she would have got out a long time ago. The Marshall SUV looks similar to the Tahoe she rides in. At least she would be at home when they come in to indict her. She probably did what every ghetto dope dealer does: put the money in their family names on their mom and have everybody going to jail. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is a common thing that's done from criminals. Tiffany let Kamal spend. Hey, shout out to him if he spent up all that money and play ignorant. Hey, did she actually get charged? Nope, nope, no indictment, no charges as of yet. I'm thinking November. Yeah, let's see. Why does her boyfriend still have a job there? Now we'll tell you that's a finesse that's actually less scrutinized. But that's common too. I did a video. I was looking at old DC Mayor Marion Barry, and he like gave an ex-girlfriend a job or something like that. Let me see. PPP loans. If she got PPP loans, that'd be crazy. Okay. Okay. All right. We gonna see. Yeah. I agree that she could have purchased the asset. She could have purchased an asset, but I don't think she could purchase an asset in a way that'll allow her to keep an asset. Those are two different things. There's a difference between a drug dealer buying a house and a drug dealer buying a house. So when he get out of prison, he can actually go to that house and still have it. One requires an intricate network of people, and money laundering, like I said, is not easy or cheap. To launder $1 million, you probably got to spend $300,000. Most money launderers like, hey, I'm gonna charge you 30-40% off the break, and you ain't gonna have no choice. Take applications for fabricated work. Yeah, and normally when you see people get in friends and family position, the question is, do they even got the skill to do the job? Like me, if I get a job and I'm like, yo, I'm gonna hook up my people with a job, you gotta at least on paper have the ability to do the job. That would be like me saying, like, yo, I'm gonna hire you, I'm gonna bring you on as an attorney. Don't worry about you not being an attorney. It's all good. Just come on and get this salary. Like the rule number one of hiring friends and family, on paper, they at least have to have a background that could put them in that position. Now they could suck at the job. They could be a rookie, a novice, have no experience, whatever. But at least on paper, if somebody looked at their resume, they got to be like, all right, at least he got the education to potentially do whatever this job was. But I seriously doubted that's the thing. But yeah, she got the friends and family plan. Justice, just ice, however you want to call it. I forgot about the day ice rink. That's what we said. That's what she gonna get arrested at. Y'all missed the video. I'm calling it. It's gonna be November before Christmas, but maybe after Thanksgiving, and she gonna be skating at the ice rink. Justice or just ice or whatever you call it, and that's when justice is going to be served. Could Tiffany funnel her ill-gotten gains into a trust fund from her? Yeah, she could funnel it anywhere, but the problem is going to be after the money was stolen, what mechanism did it go through? because it can't go from I stole it to my account to trust fund. That'll be stupid. Like, I mean, it could go that route, but nobody's going to get anything. And when I talk about if we're putting money in a trust fund or buying assets, I think of it as okay. Like don't like you said, most drug dealers, guys on the street, they use their money, they go buy a car, they literally buy their money with the exact money that the crackhead gave them, and they stuck it in a shoebox somewhere. That's never going to work. But if it's a big time white collar crime, it has to be some mechanism in between the point of getting the money illegally, middle mechanism to clean the money up and make it look like a legitimate enterprise, then to put it wherever the hell you want to put it, trust fund, home, your bank account, or something. And I don't know if she has the maybe if her charity was up and running, that could have been the vehicle. Or if she has let's say she had a 30% interest in a laundromat chain or something like that, then something like that could be the go-between to where you legally get the money. Somehow it's washed and laundered, then it comes out clean on the other side. But I just don't think that that's a realistic possibility. I wish it was real. I feel sorry for Dalton and the 17 districts of Thornton Township. It's going to take years to recover. Yep, 8 to 10 years probably to be exact. If she's indicted, what pretrial release conditions do you think she will get? That's a good question. All right, her prior criminal conduct includes stealing vehicles, right? I think she probably wouldn't spend any time in actual custody. Well, let's scratch that. It depends the level of the indictment. All right, so let me scratch that back because when I did the video on Trayon White, the DC guy. He only had bribery as a count, so they allow him to leave. Generally, bond isn't based on the crimes legally. If you look at Supreme Court and how they define and determine what bond is, your bond shouldn't be based on the type of crime you committed. So if somebody committed an armed robbery, it's actually inappropriate for a judge to say, hey, because you committed this crime of armed robbery and a threat to the public, I'm going to put a bond on $300,000 on your head, a cash bond at that. No, that's technically not how it should go. According to case law, bond is the only determining factor of bond is a person's likelihood and ability to show up for court. So if you always show up to court, you should probably have a low bond. But that's not how judges work, because if I'm a judge and there's a guy who's accused of beating the hell out of his wife, and I'm like, hey, you got 23 previous charges for beating your wife, but you always come to court, so I'm gonna let you go. You just come back for your trial, man. That judge's gonna lose his damn job. So that's not how it's done. But in theory, bond is supposed to be based on a person's availability to show up for court. If her indictment is beefy as I think it is, she would probably have some bond, but I don't think it's going to be a bond that's ridiculous. I would say it may be $100,000 bond, something like that. I think it'd be something that generally I would define as a light bond. And $100,000 bond, I don't think Tiffany Henyard is balling. I don't think she's a monetary mastermind with illegal funds, but I think she has enough money and assets to make a $100,000 bond. Normally, $100,000 bond, you have to do 10%. Now, this is where it get interesting, because if I were a judge, I would be a dick considering this money that was stolen from a government entity. So I would put a bond on. If it were unilaterally up to me and she was indicted in front of me, I would probably put a cash bond on, which means you don't need a percentage of the amount. You need the actual amount. So if I say $200,000, you actually have to come with $200,000 to bond out. That's when judges normally do that for drug dealers, white collar crime. If it's very severe, they'll put a cash bond on it, so you can't get off with just paying a percentage of the bond. And then they'll apply something they call the source of fund rules. I'm gonna put a cash bond on you of $200,000, and the source of fund rules apply. So when that $200,000 come, You actually have to provide evidence. The burden is on you to provide evidence that the money that you use to make this cash bond didn't come from anything illegal. That's going to be hard to do. Normally, in those situations when you see people make that bond, let's just talk this through. Let's say I'm a criminal and I had, I don't know, white collar criminal, drug dealer, whatever type of criminal. And the judge said, yo, this dude operated a lot of money because of the type of crimes he commit. So I'm going to put a $500,000 cash bond. You need 500,000 to get out. 10% of that and that going to do. And the source of fund rules apply. So if you come with $500,000, you have to show that this money came from a viable source. And that sounds really complicated to do, but it's really not. Because normally what I would do is, if I'm a person and I actually had means, I would be like, you know what? I would find somebody, one of my boys who got a grandma, who got a house worth $500,000. And I'd be like, hey, pay her $700,000. Pay her $700,000 to put up her $500,000 house to get me out on bond. So now that $500,000 house, because it came from that asset, it would satisfy the source of funds rule, proving that it didn't come from illegal activity, and the person would have made the bond. But I don't think that they'll put a big bond on her. $100,000, I don't think they're going to require a cash bond, because I've never seen a cash bond. Well, no, I have one. I've seen a cash bond for one case, and it was a case it was like a $10 million fraud scheme. So, but I would be shocked if they put a cash bond on her. Probably source of funds, but I'd be shocked if it was a cash bond. What up, debt free? Yeah, 20 years ago, she would have gone to prison. But today, I'm unsure if she would get charged. The scales of justice are tilted all over the country. Our justice system is failed. I do not disagree with that. Yeah, Tiffany and her boyfriend tried to buy an asset by building that faulty property for the local liquor dispensary. Oh, see, she trying. It takes some brains to launder money. Let's see. I heard earlier that TH had closed the village checking account. Yeah, I got to look up that. Everybody keeps saying that. Tiffany is too hot for a person that can launder money to mess with. I agree. Would you really want to do that? If you're a world-renowned money launderer, that's a good point. Hey, shout out to you, Albert. That's a good point. If you are a world-renowned money launderer, you laundered money for the cartel and the biggest drug lords and crime syndicates. Would you really want to mess with this loud-nosed, loud-mouth ass person? Hell no. That would be detrimental. you might as well open yourself up to an indictment. That's a good point. Shout out to you. That's a good point. William Moore, her lapdog, and Keith Freeman signed off on the construction of the building, but it wasn't up to code. They can't even launder the money right to get the asset. I doubt she has money stashed away. I agree. Everything about her actions indicates someone who perpetually overspends the cash. Hey, I agree with you 100%. Shout out to you. I agree 100%. She's just not giving someone who follows Dave Ramsey's baby steps. You know what I mean? When Lacey got fired, he still had the truck Tiff bought. Why can't they get this city truck back, even if they can't get a law enforcement job anymore? I just don't think they want to give the truck back. And the city probably not in a rush to do it because Tiffany Henyard still has some viable power. I think that building is key for Tiff in the village. Her answers are going to be, yep, she's not going to say anything. Let's see. How she was looking this weekend is noticeable. Her hair and makeup guy isn't working for her. Hey, when times get tough, man, we did the video on the politician who committed $1.6 million of fraud and spent $1,800 on his beard. Let's see. Screw the 10% bond. If Tiffany has $150,000 liquid and pays the full thing, would just prove a lot. If she paid the full thing, I would be impressed. I don't think she got it. Okay, I'm gonna check that out. Give me a sec. Let me see. Give me 1 second. That's crazy. Get out of there. Man, I got so many fucking emails. Yeah. Hmm. All right, all right, all right. I'm gonna have to look it. I'm gonna have to check that out. Yeah, Illinois is the most democratic state, and Chicago always has been plagued with corruption, even if Tiff brings it up. I agree. His father, he gave up the Durango. The Tahoe is better than Durango, so good choice on his call. Mayor side chick. Kamal Woods. Yeah, he was jacking people up. But yo, I think I'm gonna close this video out. Brother gotta go to work in the morning and it's getting late. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I think those are the 5 or 6. Let's run through them real quick. This is the what I'm guessing we're gonna see on the indictment. 2 of them, maybe not. All right. We talked about it. Honest services fraud. Probably going to be on there. A scheme to defraud another of an intangible right of honest services through a scheme to violate a fiduciary duty by bribery or kickback. A lot of mayors, Ray Nagin and some others, were charged with that. RICO, I'm going to say yes to the RICO. So honest services fraud 1, RICO 2, wire fraud 3. I don't think we're going to. This could be on there, making false statements to a federal agent. I just hope she's not. I don't think she'll be stupid enough to have a conversation with federal agents. If she does, that'll definitely be on there because she's going to lie. Conspiracy is going to be on there. Tax evasion, maybe. Tax evasion may not be on there because tax evasion is a defense charge for people trying to defend their fraud. So I don't think tax evasion is going to be on there because I just don't think she's smart enough to try to use the tax code to justify her ill-gotten gains. I just don't think that that's the case. But that's it. Tax evasion may not be on there. And if she doesn't speak to authorities, she won't make a false statement. Everything else will be on there. We're going to have to circle back and do a poll. We're going to do a couple polls on Tiffany Henyard as well, too. Loverboy has a very long rap sheet. A wife, a car wash, and Thornton properly flips through Tiff, youth leader at Thornton, and Tiff goons who attack. Hey, if you're going to be committing crime, you might as well have a significant other who's willing to bust some heads for you, right? I mean, like, what? If I would give you this job and do all this stuff, the least you could do is jack up somebody for me. Yo, I'm about to get out. Y'all have a good one. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all be safe, be blessed. I'm going to holler at y'all later on this week. Anybody checking it out on replay, check out the content on the screen. There's going to be more content related to finance and attorney reactions. Peace. Be easy.